So I can be at a social gathering and having a young man like chatting me up, and then it gets to the point of what do you do, and I say I'm a death doula, and they're just like, and I'm like, it's the greatest cock block in the world, really. It's just to tell people you work in the realms of death. That there could be a possibility that consciousness can carry on in some kind of way. Of course, my consciousness, if it did carry on in some kind of way, it wouldn't be tree. It could just be a point of awareness, but it's not having this experience called tree.
Right, so let's do this. So the conversation of death, dun dun dun. The biggest mystery of life. It's funny because obviously the conversation of death, I know last time when we spoke about on the podcast, we talked about dreams. Obviously the plan in that podcast was to dive into death, but I definitely think that death requires the conversation around death definitely requires a full podcast within itself. But in general, the conversation of death, and the reason why I went doom 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 is because it is very taboo in society. A lot of people are very scared to sort of go there. Why do you feel that?
Why are we scared to go there with death? Oh.
Even though we all do it, it's still taboo.
Yeah, I think it's probably partly to do with the fact that our society, the way our construct is here in the West, is that death is swept under the carpet. So you see countless examples of this. We live in a society and a culture that really promotes youth and is really obsessed with youth and like living forever, and everything is just quite centered around that. And it would seem as though we've lost connection with the reality, the natural reality of biological death, that we age, we get old, we die. And it's coming for us all.
Yeah, whether you like it or not. It's funny because you mentioned there about how like advertisements and stuff like face cream and things like that have, you know, how it's in our faces saying about like you need this cream to live forever and stuff. It's funny because not live forever, but to have full vitality for the rest of your life, sort of say. Like you need, like you said, you need to look this age and things like that. It's funny because that psychology actually plays from death. Just when you were saying it, I was going through the psychology in my head of how advertisements, I mean, society in general doesn't want to talk about it, but however, the psychology behind the society is playing on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we live in a fear-based culture, really. If you think about it, a lot of the underlying pinning threads behind a lot of things is fear. And you see it a lot in the media, you see it in the news. It's always bad news, it's always fearful news. You never hear news of, sometimes they throw in a good thing there. Where there's like a hero, or there's a sweet moment with a kitten or something. But for the most part, we're driven through fear, and we all have an innate fear of death. So all of these like almost subliminal messages through our culture of fear really taps into the fear of death as well. Also, it's big business. Fear is big business. You know, you have a captive audience if you can instill fear in the hearts of your fellow human being. They will be at your beck and call for anything, be it it's time to go to war, or you need to buy these products in order to feel less fearful. You name it. So it seems to be as though we're afraid. We're all very fearful of death and dying here in the West. And I often see it in people's eyes when I'm asked, at a social gathering, what do you do? And I'm like, question. Which one should I tell them first?
I look at dreams or looking at death.
I'm going to talk about, maybe I'll just leave, I'll do the death doula thing at the end. So I usually tell them last. and then watch their face. I always love to watch the faces of people when they say, I'm a death doula. Well, first they hear the word death. So the faces, you change to surprise or completely turn white, or I can see a bit of fear. I've had people's eyes well up with tears and get very emotional. So even the word death, just saying the word death really does something emotive to people, and it certainly gets a reaction. So I can be at a social gathering and having a young man like chatting me up, and then it gets to the point of, what do you do? And I say I'm a death doula, and they're just like, and I'm like, it's the greatest cock block in the world, really. It's just to tell people you work in the realms of death, and all of a sudden it throws the wet towel and everything. I love that. I don't mind that though.
Yeah, I love that, because it's funny, because in society in general, when the general conversation when you meet someone for the first time, and they always say, what do you do? Well, that's always the first common question. What do you do? No one ever asks you if you're happy, but everyone always says to you, what do you do?
Yeah.
But them conversations are normally always the small talk conversations. So if you were in a sort of the elevator pitch or something, where you were in an elevator with somebody and someone said to you, what do you do? And you just said the word death, people would be like, oh, no. So it's like the first, it's a great tool to get out of them conversations that no one likes.
and have someone just go, oh, great to meet you, bye. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. I don't have to talk to that person anymore.
When you said before about I cannot pronounce the word, deaf doula.
A doula.
Doula, yeah. What is? Could you describe what that is? Because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. So we know what death is. We just talked about it.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's the biological end of things.
We could be dead now.
Yeah, you never know.
This is what death is.
So death. We know what death is, and a doula. It's a Greek word, and it means woman who serves. And I'm not really into gender specifics, but it is what it is, and that's the name that a lot of the death positivity movement has embraced to describe this role. Other words have been described for this role as death midwife, and end of life guide, end of life companion. So effectively, a doula can be there at birth. So a doula helps the mother and the baby through the process, the birthing process. A death doula does very much the same at end of life. So you're there as a companion, as a server that's there for the dying person and for the family through the dying process. And this can come in many different ways. It could be in psychological support, emotional support. Sometimes it can be spiritual support, depending on where the person's at and what they're navigating in their journey. And practical support too. So helping with helping arrange funerals, talking about wills and death certificates, you name it. So it can fall under the umbrella of a lot of variety of things in care. And as a doula, you can be there through the various parts of death and dying. So you could be there at the beginning just to give some advice, or you could be there at the end when someone is dying and transitioning and you're vigiling. So it's multifaceted, but that's basically what a death doula does, holding space for the dying and for their family, to create an atmosphere of support and care and compassion and love, to be the calm, still person in the storm that can hold everyone in a way where people feel that they're weak or they're bereaved and they're finding it very difficult. So it's an interesting line of work, because you see many sides of human behavior as well at end of life.